Oops, I got my computer all over the place. Sorry, just bear with me a minute. So, guys, thanks for coming in today. So, this morning I wanted to talk a little bit about disruption and modern business. So, before I start, I'm Dennis Oakley. I'm a strategy consultant. I make my living by helping businesses understand the threats that they're facing and then change their business model to respond to those threats. So what I'm going to talk a bit about today is about disruption and how it affects us. But first of all, I'm going to start off with a little story about my experiences and why this became so much of a central passion in my life. So something about 15 years ago, I was doing my MBA and my wife was working for a steel company back in the UK. And I decided, or she decided, that we were going to set up our own business. And we'd identified between us a bunch of ways that the model of selling steel was outdated, it was not great, and we thought that we could do a really good job. Now, when we started off, we did our market research, and we saw that the steel market did this. It went up and down and up and down, very much with the economic cycle. So in the good times, you'd make money. In the bad times, you'd lose money. The secret was to make enough money in the good times to get through the bad times. And we understood all that. So what we did, we quit our jobs, we came out to this side of the world, Southeast Asia, and set everything up. And in the first few years, we did spectacularly well. We made a lot of money. It was absolutely brilliant. The way that we were communicating, the marketing, the channels that we were using, the customer service that we were delivering really set us apart from all of our competitors, and that had a very, very big impact. We got one of the proudest moments of my life is I eventually sort of got us to the finals, the national finals of HSBC Startup Stars, and so I was invited along to the HSBC headquarters in Canary Wharf, I think sometime in 2009, late 2009, and basically pitched, this is what our business is, this is what it's doing, and there was some of the great and good. The chairman of HSBC was there, Martha Lane Fox, who'd one of the internet boom darlings. She'd created lastminute.com. There was Sir Digby Jones, the chairman of the Confederation of British Industry. And I pitched to them, and I was expecting to get some really good feedback on how well we're doing. And instead, Sir Digby sort of went over and he said, Dennis, my boy, you're screwed. And it was like, oh my God. I didn't expect that. And then he proceeded to explain to me exactly why I was screwed and why I wasn't going to be able to do anything about it. And he used his vastly greater knowledge of experience, talking to thousands of big and small companies to see what I hadn't seen. Because by that point, we were in the Great Depression, there were lots of problems, the oil price had collapsed, and that had caused lots of problems for my market. And we were struggling. It was hard work. We were just about coping. So sales had dropped by about 70%, margins by 90%. So life was tough. What we didn't realize was that all the new entrants in China, there were hundreds and hundreds of steel mills coming into the market. Chinese economy slowed. Where were they going to sell their steel? They started dumping it on the world market. And with none of our buyers or none of our customers having much money or any orders, there was absolutely nothing that we could do on a sales and marketing point of view to get more, because there was nothing there. And it just wiped us out. And so we were stuck with this business model that basically no longer worked. We got hit by the depression. We got hit by the massive threat of new entrants coming into the market. And it was at this point And then it got to the point where we had a choice one day, sometime in December 2010 or 12, something like that. And it was, do we spend the last of our money on powdered milk for the kids, or do we get some food for a Christmas meal for us? And I think we ended up having plain rice, which was a bit sad, but the kids still ate. And it was an absolutely terrible time to go through. But what we did is I used the business model canvas, and over a period of months we struggled to survive. We did lots of things, and we changed the business model and got into a new niche which was defensible. And over the longer period of time, 90% of our competitors who existed then have exited, they've left the market, they've gone bankrupt, or they've disappeared. And that was, to me, a very, very powerful experience, because it showed what firstly the impact of a threat totally outside your company just coming in, just like a tidal wave washes over you, just kills off all your plans. And secondly, the ability to calculatingly look at your business model, change it, figure out how do you change it to move on to get to a new and better place. And so when I look at the world today, or businesses, I look at many of them in terms of what threats do they face, and there are a number of core threats that I see in a lot of business. There's the technological changes, the threats that are coming across. There are the social changes, how people's social beliefs and opinions are changing, the demographic changes. China has got way too many men with respect to the number of women that it's got, which makes marriage and dating very, very interesting nowadays, and drives Singles Day, because that's how men seem to try and bribe women to get out of the skewed sex hole that they're in, skewed sex ratio hole that they're in. Skewed sex would be something entirely different and not appropriate for this podcast. You've then got regulatory threats, changes. So looking at businesses, what are the big threats? What are the changes? And one of the things that we've seen increasingly through the latter part of the 20th century and accelerating over the last 5 or 10 years is that you're getting more and faster changes, and they're coming like wave after wave after wave, just hitting businesses. So it's very difficult just to have a single business model that is going to keep on churning out money and being a cash cow for a significant period of time. Let me give you an example. When I was about 6 or 7, my dad came home with a CD player. He got 2 speakers at the end. Cassette player. 2 speakers at the end, little place where you put the cassettes, and he spent lots of money on 5 cassettes, and this was amazing. This kept us entertained. I remember listening to the musical, Jeff Wayne's musical version of War of the Worlds hundreds and hundreds of times. It was brilliant. So that cassette player and its successors lasted me through to about when I was 16, when I got my first CD player. The CD player lasted me through to when I was about 23 or 24, and then I think I had some sort of solid state disk drive. Yeah, it was an MP3 player. Yeah, so there was an MP3 player. Then I got a Creative Sound system that gave me 500 different things. That was songs. That was 2 years later. Then I had the iPod, which gave me iTunes and a bunch of songs. A couple of years later after that, I had pretty much every song in my library on my phone. A couple of years after that, I had Spotify with every song ever created on my iPhone. And it's like, whoa, the pace of change just kept on accelerating. And this is true for so many industries. I mean, whether you're small or you're big, I mean, you look at how many times IBM has reinvented itself from a maker of business machines to a manufacturer of mainframes, to then a manufacturer of personal computers, to then a provider of consulting services, to then a provider of artificial intelligence, so on, continually reinventing, changing the business models in response to the threats and changes in the environment. And I was looking at some research the other day, and it was absolutely fascinating that most CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, those are the biggest companies in America, see significant threats or changes to their business model being required in the next 5 years. So 60 or 70% say technological threat is going to force them to change their business model. 50% say it's going to be social change. 40%, and they're saying it's technological and social and regulatory and demographic and environmental, not all. So everybody is seeing multiple threats and changes hitting their businesses. But what's interesting is, whilst 96% of CEOs see these problems coming, 4%, just 4% of the best and brightest CEOs in America know what to do. So, and one of the reasons I think for this is that the future is so uncertain. In the past, people have had time to think about what is happening, to see the changes coming, and then to make changes. It's sort of, okay, do I need to change? But this time, the tide is coming in so quickly that it's overwhelming businesses. Blockbuster was a huge business, boom, couple of years. Kodak saw the tide coming. It knew what was going to happen to its physical film market, and it then went out and tried to become a digital photography manufacturer. It forgot that it was actually a chemical company and not a consumer electronics company, and it failed to make the transformation, even though it had a sense of where the future was. And it sort of took a hit when photography went digital, and then it took another hit where cameras were just left behind and everybody got their iPhones. Double whammy. And this idea of the double whammy, that not only do you get hit by one threat, but you get hit by the next threat, then you get hit by the next threat, is thinking about how do you get your business models really robust enough so that they're able to cope with these threats. They are able to change with customers as the customers change, as the customers' perceptions of the problems that they have changed, as the understanding of what indeed is the problem. Some things cease to become problems. Some problems just change and morph and become very different problems. So companies left behind. So, for example, what we're seeing now with ride sharing is cool. But the problems that many governments and city councils and urban planners are seeing is the problem of urban transport is changing. Their solutions have always been, okay, we will put lots of infrastructure, we will spend $500 million on a set of mass rapid transport lines going across the city to provide trams and light rail. And now they're seeing that public use of public transport is ticking down as people do more ride sharing. Whoa, this huge business of infrastructure, is it working? How do you deal with that sort of thing? This is very much what I do. I wasn't going to do a sales pitch, but a little bit now as it's kind of appropriate. It's like, okay, looking at these business models and saying, okay, what can we do? How can we change it? What can we do differently? How do we change the business model so that we are able to keep on making money? I was talking to a great girl the other day, very experienced consultant, and she works in a country where recently they had a change of government, the election, and the work that they were doing, and a lot of other consultants, and it was tarnished by the previous government. And so they realized that they are no longer able to sell to the government, period. The government will not deal with any consultants who work with that government. So the policy consulting that they're doing, there's only one player in the market. So they either have to go out to different countries, or they have to change to a totally different set of customers. So the business model has to change, and there are so many of these things coming through. How do you adapt? How do you deal? How do you cope? And what I do is very much based on the ideas that Alexander Osterwalder came up with, the business model canvas, and it's looking at the canvas, and then it's delving down into the different parts of the canvas and saying, okay, so when we look at the revenue part, what are the toughest, difficult questions that we can ask that really understand how you make revenue? That gives us, we stress test it, and we get a very clear idea once we've asked 80 or 90 questions, how robust the business model is, where are the strengths and weaknesses. And if you're thinking SWOT, you're right, but it's not that overused, crappy marketing SWOT that we were doing in the 80s and the 90s. This is looking at the whole way that the company makes money, the whole of the business model, and then thinking, okay, where are the strengths? Where are the weaknesses? What is getting really pressured at the moment because of the environmental threats, because of competition, because of customers changing their behavior? And where are the opportunities? And when I say opportunities, you've got to be thinking blue ocean. And yes, you're absolutely right. Sometimes it may be little blue rivulets or blue streams, which was a wonderful phrase I heard the other day. Sometimes there can be real blue oceans. But it's looking for those opportunities and say, okay, we've got this business model. How do we reconfigure it? How do we change it? What do we have to abandon? What do we take forward to take us into a better place? So guys, I've run a little bit over. I hope you've really enjoyed this session today on businesses, threats, and disruption in the modern world. Do feel free to ask me any questions, and look forward to fielding your comments. If you want to know more about what I do and how I do it, head over to dennis-oakley.com. Dennis is spelt with one N, and read some of the articles there, sign up to the newsletter, or just send me an email, get in contact and ask me your question direct. I get my kicks out of helping you change your business, change your business model, understand it, and make it really clever, cool, and most of all, effective, so it grows, makes you sales, and above all, makes you profits to take home and buy that big yacht you've always been looking for. So thanks for listening. Have an awesome weekend. Next week, I'm going to be off on holiday. I'm camping on the beach, so it may not be as regular as I have been this week. Bye.